Today we are going to take a look into my mind, and what I've learned is that my writing brain is dark, confusing, chaotic, but it'll be fun too. Hey everyone, my name is Michaela, but you can call me Mick, and welcome back to my channel. So for the entire month of November and December, I'm really just going to be filming me finishing my first draft. If you don't know, I'm writing a book that I'm calling Project House of Stone, and my goal is to finish the first draft by December 31st, 2024. I definitely am moving slower than I want to be this month, and it's mostly because there have been quite a few days where work has kind of taken over, and I haven't been able to switch from work to writing during the day, and then by the end of the work day, the sun is already set now, and I just want to relax. I've definitely realized I'm way more of a morning writer unless I have friends who are sprinting at night and can hold me accountable. So what does this mean for my goals? Let's break it down. I feel like every time I make a writing video, I'm constantly like, hey, I failed. Hey, I didn't hit my goal. But I always said I'm gonna be honest with my drafting journey. So today, my book sits at 14,681 words. And yes, I hit 10,000 words almost 2 weeks ago. Today, as I film this, I have 42 days left in my goal. In order to finish my draft, basically I have to write in between 1,600 and 2,000 words every single day. And it's been like that since the beginning of this month. Moving forward, my goal for the end of November is to figure out a writing routine. I got asked that previously, and I was like, I don't have one. So I I know what hours work best for me. From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is like my best writing hours in terms of how my schedule is, but I don't really have a writing routine. So my goal for the end of November is to figure out a writing routine, and I'm going to be locked in for December. But that's where I'm at right now with my goals and the plan to get there. Okay, so what are we doing today? Today, I'm just gonna take you guys through what I've been doing lately in order to plan for a chapter. And I thought it would be good to take you on this journey today because this chapter starts a part of the book that I'm having a hard time with. We're getting deeper into this cult that Helen is trying to pull her friend out of. And I've planned out this group, but not fully. And if you don't know, I'm writing my story Project House of Stone, like I mentioned. It's about a woman named Helen who basically is fighting, I don't want to say her destiny because that sounds so cheesy, but fighting who she is at her core. She can see ghosts and spirits and is a part of this kind of magical underground world that not everyone knows about. So this is a contemporary fantasy or urban fantasy story. She can see and hear spirits. She can also communicate with them, but it is also very much a plague to her existence, and it causes her a lot of anxiety and stress. After her mother dies, she vows to never return to this world again, and in order to separate herself from her past, she takes a drug that suppresses her abilities. When we meet her in the beginning of the book, she's actually out of this drug, and it forces her to go back into the world that she's been so desperate to be rid of. And that's what kicks us off into our story. We also have a whole plot about how her best friend has gotten sucked into this cult. What I'm struggling with is this group touts themselves as a resistance group, but in reality, they're more a cult than resistance group. I'm struggling with that because I need the reader to see them as a resistance group first, fall in love with them, and then when weird things start happening, I don't want to say make excuses for them, but I want the feeling to be realistic. Even if the reader isn't, I need Helen to go on this journey. Helen is approaching this group thinking they're bad, but she really likes everyone and she likes what they stand for. And then she kind of falls in love with this group and takes on their mission as her own, but then she sees like the dark parts and then is like, oh, wait, no. But ultimately, she's going to get sucked in. And I need that to feel realistic. So I've done a lot of planning for this group, but let this be a lesson for all. No matter how much planning you do, nothing will prepare you for how much things change when writing the first draft. And I knew that going into this story. I think I was stuck in planning mode for quite some time because I've been very scared to tell this story. This story has been with me for almost a decade, but I also knew that this story was gonna be a bit gritty, a bit ugly. My characters are going to make decisions that people aren't gonna like and people aren't going to agree with. And I think I really struggled with that. It also has a lot of personal elements of mine in it, as well as like everything I love in a book. So there's two folds here of why it's taken me so long to get to the point of actual writing. One is fear, and I've talked about this so much on my channel. I've just been scared. I'm so scared it's gonna suck. I am. I'm so scared it's gonna suck. Like, can you believe that I'm sitting here on YouTube talking to you all about writing and then I write a book that sucks? That would suck. And I'm also scared that it's going to suck because it's so personal, and I also want to be a published author so bad that I'm so scared it's gonna go poorly, you know? And I know that's no way to live, and I'm actively working through it with all of you on this channel. So that's been one area. I'm scared. I'm so scared. And that's why I've been dragging my feet with this story. On the second hand, it's hard to know if this book is marketable per se. And I've been asked a lot if I think I'm going to traditionally publish this book or self-publish this book. And ultimately, my dream is to be traditionally published. I would like to query this story. And I have said self-publishing is always an option. And I am kind of wondering if self-publishing this book makes more sense just because I don't know if there's a market for it. One, urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy isn't big right now in publishing. So that could be a reason. But two, my characters aren't going to be the most likable, and they're going to be making really shitty decisions, like really shitty. I had an interview with Camry Kohler yesterday. That interview is gonna come out soon, sometime in December, I think. And I'm so excited because, guys, we chatted for so long, which has been the theme of all of my interviews. If you don't know, I have a podcast, Pen to Pod, where I interview authors. The talk with Camry Kohler was kind of life-altering for me as a writer. I don't want to give too much away from this amazing interview, so you guys will listen to it in December, but Camry Kohler has written a book that I love. It is titled Peachy. The sequel is Paired, and she also writes contemporary fantasy, so fantastical elements in a real world with very flawed characters who make flawed decisions, but you still are rooting for them. And, you know, we talked about that. And she did talk about how it was really hard to query this book because it was urban fantasy. And it was also really hard because she get a lot of feedback that like these characters aren't likable. And so that it does scare me. And that's what I've been scared about. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm writing a genre that publishing doesn't love. And I'm writing a genre or I'm writing a story where my main character is not going to save the day. Okay? She's going to make a selfish decision and it's going to have a negative outcome. I want you to still root for her to change her stars, but that's where the book is going to end. And it scares me that no one is going to want to publish it or read it. But the conversation with Camry was so inspirational and amazing, and the way she talked about her own characters, and we just kind of gushed about how much we love flawed characters and they make them real. And I was just like, yeah, like my characters are flawed and I'm writing a genre the publishing hates, but I love this story. I love it. It has not left my brain for almost a decade. And that has to be something, right? Like that, I have to believe that that means something. That if just one person connects to Helen's experience and any element of this story for that matter, then that's great. And at the end of the day, I'm writing the book I want to read and that I love. So those are my deepest, darkest fears. Hope you enjoy them. Let's go plan out this next chapter. Okay, so to plan out my chapter before I go into it, I'm using this spiral bound notebook. This is what I've been using to plan my writing with Project House of Stone. Also, I'm still working on my morning latte, but fun fact about me is that I actually did the Disney College program, and so I have a lot of like subtle hidden Disney stuff around my house. So this is the Jungle Cruise coaster, and I'm obsessed with her. Just a fun fact about me. Used to work at Disney, and it shows. Okay, so today we're actually talking about chapter 7, and technically chapter 7 is going to be in Helen's point of view, but I did just write chapter 6 in third person. If you watch my previous videos, I'm trying to figure out which point of view to write it in. So I'm going to say that it's Helen's point of view, but I'm most likely going to be writing in third. Now I want to show you guys why I'm not an example for organization. And that's because this was me taking a note last night. On the back of an envelope for someone that is not me, that used to live at my house. So I didn't need the mail. But I could not find anything to write in fast enough, because if I do not write down a thought immediately, this is what I'm like thinking for my cult. When researching cults, there are layers. There are like the thing that they do that kind of makes you go, huh, that's strange. But there's a buy-in where you're like, okay, I get it. And there's like some sort of, you know, there's a buy-in, but there's also a benefit. And so you can get persuaded. But then there's like a dark side to cults that I want to make sure is present in my cult. My husband was watching a new show called Lioness, which is about like women CIA spies. I don't know. I wasn't watching it. I'm actually surprised he was, because I'm into the darker stuff and he's into like comedies. But there was a scene, and this was when I was eating dinner. I had no clue what was going on, but I just watched a scene where they were unfortunately torturing somebody, and the director of the program yelled at someone who was telling her like, okay, stop, she's had enough. And she yelled, she's done when I say she's done. And I was like, ooh, okay, that is an interesting power dynamic at play. And I wonder how I can use a scene like this to make it make sense within my story. So this is kind of now the darker side. So these are my notes. And now I have to make sure that it transfers to my plan for the chapter, because in this chapter, we are like meeting the cult for the first time. So the reason why I actually have to plan out this chapter is because it deviates from my outline and from what I had during my zero draft planning. And so that's why I have to kind of do a quick planning for a chapter. So when a chapter does change, I still want to know what direction I'm headed in. So I like to make sure I know exactly what characters are present. These are the main characters present. I am just putting member A, B, and C, because if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that naming characters is like the bane of my existence. So I have placeholder names for them, but I'm not going to share them because I know they're going to change and it will just confuse people. So until it's solidified, they're member A, B, and C, but I know who they are. So I have the characters, I have the setting, which is the place of the cult. It's always been called House of Stone in my mind, but of course this has changed and this is not what it's called. But for the purpose of this, that's where they are. And then I'm just going to talk about the goal of my main character, Helen, and then the conflict that she might have in this chapter to reach that goal. We're going to work through that, but we're also going to add some things to the characters. I want to make sure that in every chapter I try to really capture what my characters are feeling, even if it's just really quick buzzwords. So Helen in this chapter is going to be honestly nervous to meet everyone. And I think she's going to also be pretty anxious because of some other factors that happened in previous chapters. So that's kind of Helen's vibe. This chapter, Zoya is going to be excited because she's getting to show Helen kind of this portion of her world and where she's been. I don't know about my side characters, which is bad. This I know is like not good. And this is something I've known for a while, that people outside of Helen, Zoya, and the Novaks, like I don't have fleshed out as well. So this is just a good reminder for me to take this chapter to explore these characters' voices. I'm actually not someone where characters come first for me. I feel like that's a common theme with writers. Some people, character comes first, but for me, like the premise and the themes of the story come first, and then like setting, character, all that kind of stuff comes later. So I know that in this chapter, I need to use it to explore these characters' voice. For the setting, there are some things I want to remember to put into this chapter to not forget. So one is that it is surrounded by water, which means that it's very green in color. It's also all stone, hence House of Stone. It's like a mix between, how I'm envisioning it in my head is like a mix. Also, sorry guys, my handwriting turns horrible when I write fast, but mix between a cathedral and a cottage, like a stone cottage. I know what I'm saying at least. I want to make sure I remember to talk about the water, as well as the statues that litter the grounds. Oh, I guess also there's a weeping willow I want to make sure Helen sees, because that's important. Okay, so I just want to remember those things for the setting. Now, the goal that Helen has is to figure out where they are. Helen is like half going undercover when she's entering this cult, and her main goal is to get Zoya out of the cult. But for this chapter, she's going to be focusing on trying to figure out where they are, because the way that she got there in the previous chapter didn't allow for her to know where she was. And she needs to know where this is to give that information back to who she's working for. The conflict, though, is she's going to figure out that the whole place is warded, and it's going to not allow her to know where she is. And we're going to see that at the end of the chapter, she leaves and forgets pieces of the location. And that's why I think describing the location is going to be very important so that this moment has more impact. So that's kind of where we're going to end up. Now, of course, I just drew a big arrow there, so I can't write what I needed to write to kind of add this in. I know where I want this cult to go, but I need to make sure that the cult first impression, because what's actually happening in this chapter, the action, I guess I should also put, oh wow, this is getting chaotic. The action here is a kind of welcome dinner into a slight initiation for Helen. I want this welcome dinner into initiation to mimic the layers within the cult. The thing that goes, that's strange, but I'll buy into it, to, oh, this is like really weird. But I don't want Helen to feel that, if that makes sense. I need her to just be going along with it, because her focus isn't getting in right now. It's focusing on other things, her overall mission. But I need the readers to feel this. So I need the dinner to be a, that's odd moment. And then I need the initiation to be like, ooh, that was a little dark. That's what I'm trying to capture from a reader perspective. I guess I should put this in my notes. I just want you guys to know that almost all of my planning pages in this notebook look like this. These are good reminders for me going into this chapter, things to think about. And if they aren't executed, that's a-okay, right? If they aren't executed, I'm going to put all of these notes into Scrivener. So I have them in a physical format and in my Scrivener doc, so that when I do go to write when I do go to write draft 2, I know what I eventually want this chapter to look like. And again, it could change, but that is me planning my brand new chapter that was not in my outline or in my zero draft. Yeah, so now let's write. Okay, so I finished chapter 7. I think it went pretty well. Honestly, planning it out right beforehand was way more helpful for me. It helped me to kind of like get in the mindset of what I needed to do in this chapter, who was in this chapter, what did I want the reader to feel. It's not perfect by any means, but the process felt really good. And up until this point, I've been using old planning. So it was kind of cool to experience planning a chapter as I was writing it. So I ended this chapter around 2,500 words. It was like 2533 or 03. It was like 2503. So I wrote 2,500 words today, which is crazy. To be fair, I took a half day because I needed peace. So that's like the only reason why I was able to write this much today is because I took a half day and I was like, okay, let me kind of vlog this day and try to write as much as I could. So getting a whole chapter done feels really, really good. So that puts me at like just under 17,200. So I'm feeling good. Okay, thanks for following along on this. I don't know if this vlog makes sense. I don't know. I'm trying to like do a writing vlog, but I'm not that much of a vlogging girly. I think I'm gonna try more with like my new camera. But today was really like write a chapter with me and hear me talk about my book. So thank you for doing that. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up because that helps with the YouTube algorithm. And leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you are learning if you are writing a draft right now in November, or even if you are editing, like what things are you learning about your work? I'd love to hear it and chat with you about it. Also, I'm taking any and all suggestions for what you guys want to see content-wise. I am going to be approaching 2025 with a much more like serious mindset about YouTube. I've kind of just been like throwing videos out there willy-nilly and just doing this for fun for the past almost 6 months now. And going into 2025, I definitely want to take it a bit more seriously and make really fun content and make content that you guys want to see. So as I'm planning that out, I'd love to know what you guys want to see more of from this channel. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day and happy writing. Bye, writers.